Let's go through this in brief. Sex. An evolved way of reproducing an organism, passing on the genes. It involves two specialized forms, the male and the female. Both specialized forms evolve the traits, mental and physical, necessary to facilitate the role which is being played, the sexual role being played. The male produces a lot of sperm in its lifetime. In order to fulfill its mission, its sexual mission, the reason why it evolves at all. Otherwise, we shouldn't even be talking about sex at all. Is to prove itself worthy of reproduction. First it has to survive. Next it has to compete with other males for the right of having access to females. The female is more passive. Her role is that of selecting the appropriate genes according to her judgment to pass on by merging them with her ovum, which she is born with, and she cannot she has no infinite amount of, she's born with a finite amount of it, and so she has to take care how she spends them, how she invests them, if you want to think of it using game theory. Appearances, despite what modern minds prefer to believe, are neither accidental nor irrelevant. The appearance, the apparent, is the manifestation of a past. And when we talk about nature, we are talking about the sum of all previous nurturing. The idea that one generation of nurturing can outdo this is not only ludicrous, it's also cowardly, and it lacks intellectual integrity. It is what weaklings prefer to believe in order to deal with whatever genes or whatever past they've inherited. Therefore, how we look, how we sound, how we smell, how we move, our shape, our color, our height, our weight, our mass, all of it is a manifestation of everything that has ever happened in the past leading up to our emergence. We are the peak, the tip of the pyramid, and behind us is a history of becoming, which we inherit and represent as the apparent, as the appearance, or to use the Greek equivalent, as the phenomenon. We are the phenomenon representing our entire history of becoming, not only our own, but also before our birth. We also inherit our parents' past, and their parents, and all this converges in us. Not all of it, of course, because in procreation only 50% combines with the 50% from the other parent, resulting in a combined appearance. This is where things get a little confusing. Nevertheless, we are the combined histories of two bloodlines, two pasts, two becomings. When we speak about nature, about the person, the identity, the apparent, and we categorize it, we are not talking about an absolute. When I say that I've inherited something from my past, or I represent the combined historical becomings of two lineages, two bloodlines. What I'm saying is I've inherited the potentials, their potentials, possibility. We see something as possible, meaning that not it is restricted in what is possible. Potential is another way of saying probable, and probable is a restriction of what is possible. It is a measurement of what is possible. When we say something is possible, we mean that because we're ignorant of everything, that anything is possible. Probability, saying something is probable or improbable, means something is less likely to be possible or more likely to be possible. And so potential is another way of saying what is more probable and less probable. It's a genetic limit. If it were not so, then the very idea of species would be impossible. Because when we speak about species, we speak about probability. We say, when we say bear, the category bear, let's say, we're talking about a probability of shape, size, mass, speed. And though we may not know the specifics of the particular, we know that it falls within a probability ratio. It can be this small or that large. It can be this slow or that fast. So everything is an approximation. It's not an absolute measurement. And this is true for all measurements that we make, every scientific measurement. We can imagine not only biological measurements such as IQ, speed, height, mass, or whatever else you can think of associated with biology. Therefore, when a female evaluates a male, she is approximating by observing the male, by analyzing it innately, intuitively. But we can also do this consciously. Evaluating his potential. She's making a value judgment. It's not a guaranteed, because nothing is absolute. Everything is an approximation. Everything entails a risk. So a female has to be careful, precisely because there are no absolutes, and she can never be absolutely certain. But she can evaluate the health, the virility, the intelligence of the male, not only physically by his beauty, his physical symmetry, but intellectually by his mental symmetry, his intelligence, his creativity, and so on. And this is what the female sexual role is: to evaluate, to pick, to sample, to gestate, to take care of the offspring, with whatever risks and costs that entails, and then to move on. This is why females are promiscuous, not only males. Males are promiscuous because they have to spread their seed as quickly as possible before they perish, because it's a hard life competing all the time for sexual privilege. And yes, males are the expendable sex. Some people have just discovered this, but this is a natural phenomenon. It's nothing new. The male has always been the expendable sex, and it always will be, because he produces sperm by the billions in his lifetime, and because his role, his sexual role, is to prove himself worthy, and that often leads to death. But also this male expendability makes him something with more potential than a female. In his short life, he has to, like I said, prove himself worthy. That means he has to challenge authority. He has to compete successfully. If he wins, he has to maintain his power over a period of time. It means he has to defend his flock, his herd, his harem against other males. This requires a lot of creativity, a lot of thinking outside the box, a lot of anti-authoritarian psychology. This is why males invent science and philosophy, because they challenge the status quo. They want to, if we think of nature as the feminine, that which is forever tumbling towards randomness, chaos, then the male has to gain control over it, the feminine, particularly within himself. When we speak of masculinity, we speak of the masculine spirit that has attained dominance over the feminine inside himself first. And this is exhibited as masculine prowess, as dominance, as confidence, as power, strength. This is why the male has to be creative, has to be assertive, has to be domineering, whereas the female can dedicate her time and her mental abilities towards being incorporated harmoniously towards social issues, towards maintaining a safe environment within which she can facilitate and she can carry out her role as a female and raise her child within it. The male is not that. That's not his role, his sexual role, his natural role. His role is to compete, to challenge, to dominate, to prove himself, and then to perish. In nature, the males die pretty quickly. And up until recently, this was the case also with humans. So the fact that males are the expendable sex is both the source of male brilliance, strength, and also the reason why males are expendable. So females did not invent male expendability. Females are what they've always been, natural agencies. They are oblivious of what is going on. They just intuitively, instinctively, innately behave. That's why they are called the force of nature. They are the representation of nature itself. And as nature is tumbling, like I said, towards chaos, randomness, and man is the agency of ordering, the psychology of the female reflects this chaotic randomness, this unconscious lack of order, of conscious understanding, of integrity, of responsibility, and so on. Now we come to the main part of our little story here. So when man competed with other males, he realized that if he organized into groups, he allied himself with other males, and he shared with them the outcome, then he would be more effective. And of course, this had as a consequence that other males would also organize in the same way. So we have the first steps towards civilization. But of course, in every civilization, there has to be a leader. There has to be the dominant male and then the subordinates. And the same holds true in every relationship. One will always dominate and the other one will be subordinate to him. So slowly these groupings of males competing with each other over resources, females being a resource, had to develop a structure in order to be harmonious with each other, first of all, so they can be a more effective competitive force against other male groups. So this is how we developed Paternalism. Paternalism was a way of integrating males, beta males, inferior males, into the troop by giving them a female of their own and making them investors in the troop, so they don't feel wronged. They don't feel like they're fighting for nothing. So every battle becomes a personal battle as well. When he follows his leader, the soldier of old, he was fighting for control over his woman. He was fighting for his brood. This is where we get the first emergence of the family. It was a paternalistic invention. This is why feminists hate it. Essentially what the family is based on is the control over male, but mostly of female promiscuity, of female sexual choice. And this eliminates the one power source the female has: her sex, her sexuality, her sexual choosing, her ability to evaluate males. This is taken away from her in paternalism. Again, in order to incorporate as many males into the group as possible, to make them a more successful cooperative against other male groups. And of course, in the past, these male groups also shared bloodlines. They had similar genes. And not only that, from that they had also similar cultures, similar spiritual beliefs, similar traditions. They were homogeneous as a structure. This is not the case today. Today, with the global realities, heterogeneous structures are being created. In order to harmonize them, some interesting methods are being used. One, the family has to be eliminated because it's a source of alien attitudes, alien beliefs, alien ideals, which may conflict with that of the prevailing culture. So females were liberated. What does that mean? Does it mean that they're free to do whatever they want, that they have power? Not really. The institution is still a masculine force, and whatever lies behind it still holds sway. It's still the alpha male. All the liberation of females means is that they were liberated from the beta male. And since the institution is the only alpha male, all other males are beta males. This is the crucial point here. Once you buy into this institutionalization within heterogeneous systems, where you don't even share genes with the person you supposedly belong to the same group with, then you're subordinating yourself to an alpha male, and you're becoming effete. You're emasculated. You're becoming a beta male. Because of new methods of husbandry, farming, or you can call them human manipulation, marketing, politics, psychological manipulation also. Due to these new methods, the danger that the males pose to the system decreased. Now you could brainwash them, you can redirect them, you can drug them, even with computer games, you can immerse them in artificial realities. You can convince them of lies. You can impregnate them, because now they're effete, right? With emasculating, feminizing, nihilistic ideals, and so make them harmless to the system. So it wasn't such a big cost. In fact, it was a big benefit to liberate females, because you added 100% to the workforce. You liberated the children these females were going to produce, so that they became directly influenced by the system itself, the institution. The male no longer had sway, could no longer teach his child, since Parenting now is taken over by the system, by the institution, which imposes certain rules to what a parent can do or what a parent can teach, and so on. So the male became obsolete because of what I just described. Nihilism is essentially a word describing a negation, an annulment of something. It has been associated with certain philosophical positions in relation to morality or the meaning of life. But this is part of nihilism itself. Life is meaningless and has no purpose. And that's exactly where free will has a hope of establishing itself. Otherwise, if there was a transcendental, a universal meaning and purpose, then there would be no reason for us to even speak about free will. So the real meaning of nihilism in this case, I'm trying to liberate it because it's been hijacked in our culture and it's been redefined, which is part of the washing process. The real meaning of nihilism is to negate life as it is, not as we want it to be, but as it is, as we perceive it, as it appears before us. This has nothing to do with what we want, what we wish for, and what makes us happy. This is about what is. And to negate life can manifest itself in many ways. For instance, Christian dogma is a negation of existence. And in fact, it preaches an alternative existence, a more real reality, a world beyond the world or hidden underneath the world. And how do you get there? You die, of course. You negate real life, experience life, and in its place you have this hypothetical afterlife. But Christianity has not died. It just morphed into what we call now, well, first it morphed into Marxism, then socialism, and now it's become something that we call secular humanism. Paradise has become utopia. It's no longer in the beyond, but it's in the beyond in the sense that it's in the coming future, always coming, never here. The same ethos is applied. If you study Christian and secular humanistic morals, ideals, they're exactly the same. If you study Marxism, it's exactly the same as Christianity, only the names change, the words change. Instead of sin, we have somebody who's against the party, against the people. Instead of God, we have the state. Secular humanism is essentially a more sophisticated, modern, fashionable version of Judeo-Christianity, or the nihilism we've inherited through the ages as an infection, as a disease of the psyche. It's comforting because most of us in our hearts know that if it wasn't for these moral rules, we would not be alive. That it's because of monogamy, it's because of marriage, it's because we believe that everybody deserves life, that most of us are alive today. Otherwise, if it was up to natural selection, or even if we lived in a culture such as the Spartans, where they routinely killed children that were below standard, then most of us living today would not be alive. And we know this innately. This is why a lot of us are so passionate about these secular humanist ideals, because essentially we're fighting for our right to be alive. We're trying to justify the fact that we are alive today, even though we're weak, we're sickly, we're mentally stunted, were substandard, were unfit. A lot of the diseases around today are because everybody is now permitted to reproduce, and because of the restriction imposed upon reproduction through monogamy still, although this is changing now. People are becoming more and more promiscuous and the birth rates are dropping. Because of that, most of us will not be alive today. Most people will not be alive today. And even if they were born, most of us will not survive for over a year, or maybe 2. So yes, paternalism did impose a limit to female sexual power, which made our huge populations possible, which in turn made our sophisticated, complicated, modern environments possible. Without that, civilization would have crumbled, particularly in the beginning, where homogeneous systems were still in place. No man would fight for another man's right to procreate, and if he did, in time he would challenge it so he can gain that right. So by restricting female power with paternalism, the leader made sure that those beneath him felt included. They had their own access to females so they can pass on their genes, and in this way they ensured that they had a loyal army behind them. Therefore, feminists do have a point, but then they take it too far. They also exhibit this anti-nature, secular humanist nihilism, which does not only denounce men as evil, but it also makes appearance to be superficial, beauty to be nothing. Beauty which is an exhibition, a natural display of fitness, of health, of genetic health. They will have nothing to do with this. They want a clean slate. In fact, Pinker's clean slate should not be considered something that is real, is in existence, but something which these secular humanists and Marxists and liberals, nihilists, we should call them, these Judeo-Christian nihilists, want to come into existence. They want to clean the slate of every baby so that it is ready then to be written upon. They want to erase the past so that the child can be raised with new identifications. You can connect then a baby to any ideal, any idea, even a nation, even a deity, a god, an abstraction. In capitalism, the child is connected to identify with a code, the word, first of all. This is why the Bible speaks about the word. That later becomes a numerical value, math being a language. The child then associates identity and evaluates himself with money, currency. And what is currency? The current, what sells, what is fashionable, what is popular. So the child becomes totally immersed in the present. He has no concept of the past. He has no connection to the past. He is a mind void of historical context. It's as if he came out of nothing. And this is why, and of course this is comforting, because by denying the past, you deny its effect on you. You feel like you're liberated. This is what liberation means to these people. It means a detachment from nature. And like I said before, nature is the sum of all nurturing. So nurture, in their sense of the word, is this immediacy, the power of the immediate, of spontaneity, of the now. That's why they promote this living in the present, of being spontaneous, of being mindless, unthinking, careless, infantile. And what are all these words describe? The feminine. Once you disconnect the mind from the past. Once you take away the father, who might be a conduit towards this past, a representation of this past, once you slander the manifestations of this past, that is your appearance, your heritage, your bloodline, your race, your sex, once you do all that, you prime the individual to be integrated in whatever system you want. He's now ready to be integrated, to be manipulated, to be given new ideals, new goals, new standards of evaluating himself, new identification. This is why we're being bombarded with these messages, not to see, not to hear, not to trust in our senses, to always seek an authority to tell us what this all means. We can't pass judgment. We feel ashamed of passing judgment, of making judgments on appearances. We're supposed to be totally blind, totally oblivious, totally dependent on authority, on the system, on the institutions. And this makes for the perfect drones. As a natural progression from Judaism to Christianity to Islam to Marxism, and then to secular humanism, progressives, liberals, whatever you want to call them. And then we have feminists, transhumanists, and now we have the MRAs. They are the reaction to feminism, the masculine reaction to feminism. They suddenly discover that females are not so nice, that they're not so delicate, they're not so vulnerable. They discover what the female role is in nature as a filtering device, a genetic filtering device, which now becomes a mimetic filtering device. And a lot of them are excluded, as they would have been in nature. Since females now are liberated, their sexual choices, in other words, are liberated, and the alpha male protects them from all other males, they are free to pick and choose in accordance with their upbringing, how they've been trained, what values have been instilled in them. And because women take easily to authority and submit to whatever power dominates them, they become natural and willing agencies of that system. And a lot of these males now feel excluded, wronged. Some of them are taken advantage of. Their solution is to remain children, to be players, to immerse themselves in computer realities, or to be these gigolos, fucking around with, and essentially shooting blanks, using a vagina for masturbation, where sex was a reproductive method. Now it becomes a hedonistic method. It's valueless. It has no purpose. Again, the purpose is given by us. If the purpose of sex is just to immerse ourselves in pleasure, then we are hedonists. Our value judgments are based on hedonism. People with more intricate minds prefer to have more timeless ideals, not just immediate gratification, not just some ephemeral pleasure, but something more long-term, more timeless. So for them, sex becomes this insignificant nothing, and a lot of them turn away, or they opt out. A lot of them refuse to have children, to get married, to take responsibility for themselves. They want to remain infantile. They want to remain under the care of the system. That's why they go running to the system, crying because they've been wronged, because girls have pinched them or pulled their hair, and they want the system to step in, the parent to step in to give justice. essentially feminism and MRI now are on the same ground, only they approach the same nihilistic desire from a masculine and from a feminine perspective. For the male, it's just they want to totally detach from authority, whereas the feminism want to totally attach themselves to it without any intervening middlemen. The males want to totally detach themselves from it, to become totally separate from it, to escape within alternative realities, or to remain children, forever playing, without any purpose, without any goal, without any motive, just to ejaculate, and maybe the pleasure of knowing that they tricked the female, or something like that. Well, it's easy to trick a female, even though stupidity is and simplicity is protected in our system. Women still remain quite infantile enough to be easily manipulated. But a lot of boys, or men children as I call them, they find some sense of resentful gratification in that. They think they're superior to them because they can manipulate a female. Anyways, that's my take on things. Till next time.